What's up, everyone? I appreciate y'all joining me on this episode of In the Trenches. I got a very fun guest lined up for you today, and unless you've been living under a rock or don't have social media whatsoever, you have likely seen his work over and over again, as he is Morgan Wallen's content creator. But before we get into the conversation in the episode, I want to remind y'all, please like, share, and subscribe if you're digging the content. So let's jump right now into it with David Lehr. What's going on, dude?
Just got here, just hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out, man.
Good to be home.
We've been trying to get you on to the podcast, but you've been too busy traveling the globe.
Yeah, we've been all over the place this year.
Getting you on the books has been, I'm stoked that you're so busy, right? Is that something like how long were you in Europe for with?
About 3.5 weeks, I think. 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that a big undertaking? I saw something like you or Matt posted like a shot on the ferry boat or something.
That was pretty wild. Yeah, we went on a couple ferries. So, and the way that works, we didn't fly anywhere once we got there. So we're on these double-decker buses. Which
Love those
pretty
buses.
Crazy. Yeah. I love the front lounge on the top. Yeah. It's like the back lounge. But,
and if you do that, if you're in the front lounge, top decker, driving at night, it feels like you're on like you're a speeding yacht.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's pretty wild. But what they would do is park those buses on the ferry, and then you had to get off the bus and get on the top of the ferry, and that's how you got from country to country. I forget. We did 2 of them, maybe 3, but I can't remember which countries we were going to and from. Wow. But it's pretty cool.
That is cool. And also pretty cool is Neyland Stadium. How was that? That had to be a bucket list, right?
Oh,
For
yeah.
All of you, the energy must have been sick.
It was insane. I mean, we knew it was going to be pretty crazy just because it's his hometown show, but you can't anticipate exactly what it's going to be. At the same time, we just knew it was going to be really special, and there was a lot of things I was focused on, so really I didn't get to like feel that until like on stage at the end of the show, because it was at the last show. I just remember being like, oh wow, we're here, like it just there was so much I was thinking about in those like few days and before that, and so it was pretty special.
I would imagine like when you're in the stadium, like let's just say Neyland Stadium for those shows, it would be like you're kind of trapped in there in the sense you can't leave. There's so many people outside, right? The streets must have been completely mayhem.
Yeah.
So like were you kind of like living on a bus for those days?
We had our bus out there. What did I do? I think we went back to the hotel.
Goblins.
I go back and forth with the bus and the hotel. Sometimes we get hotels and I don't want to go there.
You don't want to. You got your little bunk, your situation all set up.
And the band, I ride with the band, so usually they all go to the hotel, so I'll have the bus to myself, I love that.
Oh yeah, that's great. So let's start at the beginning. How did you? I believe you grew up Indiana, right?
Yeah, Indianapolis, North Side, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, right on. And was film something you always had not film, but just image making, photography, video? Was it something you always had a passion for? What triggered that?
Well, I was really into music growing up, and music production specifically, and just writing songs and singing and playing guitar. And I was adopted, but my adopted parents raised me, and they got me into 4-H pretty early on. Are you familiar with 4-H?
No.
So 4-H is like, it's kind of hard to describe it, but it's like a small town thing where they'll have like all these different things you could enter in with pigs or like chickens, and you raise this chicken or this pig, or they'll have photography and video, and they'll have different elements of that. They had like a whole photography series, and so my mom got me to go into that, and I didn't really know what was going on, but I took some pictures, and there was this one photo I took of these like at a landscaping shop of these like hoses that had all these different colors, and it won some award. I don't know, but I remember thinking like, oh, this is pretty cool, and like, but I was probably like 13. And
you were just messing around with the camera.
Yeah.
Do you have?
I didn't know what aperture was. I didn't know what shutter speed meant. My mom would set up the shot and be like, all right, press the button so I can say that you took the photo.
Okay. Hey, good on her. She's pushing you. That's great.
But that's probably where it started. But then where it finally became something I wanted to do was I was working with a lot of rappers in Indianapolis for music production. And I had always had a camera, and they saw it sitting there in the studio one day. Studio was my bedroom, but at the time in my townhome apartment. But
studio.
And they were like, hey man, can you shoot us a music video and we'll throw you like $200? And I was just like, I mean, sure. Like, I guess I can. And I did that one, and it was so much fun. I was like, all right, like I could do this. And I started doing promo photos for them, and like they were just, local rappers in indie, and but it was still just really fun, and that got me into it. And then when we moved to Nashville, I had met some guys through the music industry up there, which is not very big, but we were playing shows, and those are the guys I moved down to Nashville with, and we started a band, and we started putting our music out when we first moved down here. But yeah, it's kind of how I.
What was the name
of
the band?
The Boulevard.
Boulevard. That's cool. Have you still kind of tinker? Are you still playing music?
I mean, a little bit. I think all three of us has kind of gone in different directions.
Bring the band back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We put out 3 songs. One of them had over 1 million streams.
Hell yeah!
But it just life gets crazy, and
responsibilities and dreams, and then bands are hard because you all have to be kind of in sync together
100%.
with where your dreams and goals are going to go. And once one person gets kind of off, and it just kind of fizzles, huh?
Yeah, and I think we all kind of individually had our own reasons for that, but It was still a lot of fun. And when I was in the midst of all that, I was still doing some photography, video, just to make some cash on the sides, and I had made a website to promote it, and someone hit me up on there to do a web design project, and they were from New York. So I got on the phone with them, and this guy, like, he was English speaking, like he seemed like a normal guy. He said he had a little bit of a weird story about his daughter being in the hospital, and that's why he was so hard to get a hold of sometimes, but like it was believable. I didn't question it at all. And long story short, that guy used a fake credit card to scam me out of $7,000. And one day I woke up and my bank account said negative $6,980 some dollars. And
Holy.
I was like, I didn't know what to do. So I just went straight to the bank, and basically it was this credit card scam. He never was going to make a website. He had paid me up the $7,000, and then I had used some of that money for bills because I was broke, and also had used some of that money for content that we were supposed to make. And that guy that I paid for content was that guy.
Wow.
So he made off with like $5,000, and I got stuck paying $7,000 back to a credit card.
So he played
company.
2 roles in it.
Right. It was wild, and I felt like an idiot. I called a couple lawyers. They all were just literally just like laughed at me. They laughed at me. And it was, and I understand now like how taking credit card payments work, but I didn't at the time. And I honestly would probably not take credit cards for the most part now, because you got to wait. You got to wait like 3 months for that to clear before you can do anything with that money. But it was pretty wild.
To be rough.
Yeah.
What it would take to save up that $7,000 at that time too, and then to have that wiped. How did that? What was the next step for you?
I think I just started. I started driving for. Well, I was driving for Lyft at the time a little bit, so I just started driving more.
Oh, yeah.
But then about a week or 2 after that, Lyft let me go out of nowhere. And because when I was 16, I had gotten a speeding ticket, and apparently they changed security companies or something.
And flagged.
Because I had a speeding ticket that soon after my license, they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to let you drive for us." So within 2 weeks, I got scammed out of $7,000 and lost the only way I was making money. So it was defeating, but the thing about it was I just kept talking about it to people, like openly, not like woe is me, just like I would talk about what happened. And we knew a bunch of people in Nashville already, and one of my friends, Sam Volpe, this girl, was hanging out with Dalton Stenton, and I didn't know Dalton, but she was telling him the story of what I had gone through with getting scammed, and he was like, "That sounds horrible." Like, obviously. So he threw me a bone and got me on a behind the scenes shoot for this girl, April Cry.
Okay.
She's like a country artist, Disney country artist or something. And her manager was Leonard Skinner's singer's daughter.
Okay.
And then Dalton needed somebody to fill in for Skinner, and that's how I started touring with Skinner. And then that transitioned into the next group, which transitioned into Morgan. So the reason why I'm here is because I got scammed on that credit card scam, and I talked about it, and Dalton threw me a bone. So that's pretty awesome that you guys didn't know him and just everything. That's so crazy.
Dalton, baby, I love that. Shout out to that
I need
man.
to take him out to dinner or something.
And
shout out Dalton.
And for the folks that are listening or watching, Troy, I met Troy through Dalton as well. So thank you, Dalton. So that's how you met. So how did Morgan come into the picture that soon? So yeah, because you've been with Morgan since day uno, right?
Not day one, but I met him about six years ago now. He had like 40,000 followers, I think, when I met him.
40,000
on Instagram. Yeah,
shit,
pretty wild. He's got 8 million
that in
now.
a weekend.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Jeez, I saw how that thing works because I did a little behind the photo.
Yeah, it was super cool.
of a thing, and he had shared it, and I remember. We'll talk about it. I get nervous posting anything anymore.
Same.
Anything, because it's not as if I'm posting my wife and kids. That's easy. I'm posting that's going to go out to a lot of folks, and it wouldn't be read right. But man, that thing was like within 30 seconds, it was like 60 follows. It was
oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, Zach, what do I do? What's going on? What happened? I'm like, I posted the thing like 2 minutes ago. Yo, what's going viral? Let's get. It's like skyrocketing. I can't imagine what his photos. I remember from working on the what was it, the high school, the when he played the show to introduce the album, right?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, because we took the bus back down to Bridgestone, LA, and everyone from the label was like, this photo goes here, this photo goes here, this photo goes here, and it's like, good heavens, these photos are like Willy Wonka gold tickets exclusives to so many places. It was really crazy. So how did you first get introduced to Morgan?
Well, I was working with a country band, and things weren't really going so great. I didn't really enjoy it, and I was to the point where I was about to just kind of not want to tour anymore. I was pretty over it because I was my first country tour, and so I had quit that job and got an email like the same day or the day before, the day after, from I think Lloyd from Big Loud.
Yeah, and
he just had asked if I wanted to come in and talk about working with an artist. They didn't tell me who it was, but Matt Pasker had referred me for that because Matt had also worked for the artist that I'm talking about, the band that I was just talking about.
Okay.
And he knew it wasn't necessarily an ideal situation. So he had referred me for that. So shout out Matt. But I didn't even know who Morgan was. I didn't know it was going to work out. I was just so over this job. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. We'll see if this works. And I went in and met with Lloyd and Tracker. That went well. And then I met Morgan like the next day. And again, I never heard of him, but I was driving down to meet him, and I would listen to Whiskey Glasses, and I was going through a break. I just gotten through a breakup, and I was like, man, I actually kind of like this. Like, I normally I'm not like gravitated toward country in my whole life, but his stuff I was like, I actually relate to this. Was what stood out to me. And then I met him, and we were both just like, he said, I think like, as long as we get along, I think that's like, they like my work. Like, it was just like, we just got to get along,
Yeah.
And it's worked out. I remember the first weekend, we were sitting in the back of the bus. We had one bus. It was like the whole band was back there, me and Morgan and Cody, his merch guy, who's now his like personal manager. Yeah. And we were just playing music and talking, and we couldn't play any guitar though because there's no room. Okay. And so there was a guitar hanging on the wall, and I remember Dominic, who's my best friend in the whole world. He plays guitar from Morgan. We sat there, and I strummed on the wall, and he played the guitar chord shapes, and we all sang Wonderwall. And I was like, we're gonna be best friends.
Damn,
like,
Wonderwall too.
Yeah,
there you go.
It was pretty, I'll never forget that. That was awesome.
That's incredible. I know the what was it? The first time I worked with Morgan was on If I Know Me album packaging, and it was similar too. I just met him. I think I met him with Lloyd.
Yeah.
Lloyd Hollard.
Love Lloyd.
Yeah, shout out to Lloyd.
Shout out Lloyd.
Big time. And I met Morgan over at the office or whatnot, and they just wanted a super low pro shoot, and we just hung out and really just kicked it the whole time. And
he's super chill.
It's really about it really is with a lot of artists, but it is about having that trust and that I don't know, easy hang.
Oh yeah.
It's part of the ingredient you need. When you create your videos, at first you were a one man crew, right? You were doing the photo, you were doing the videos and the recaps and stuff. Do you feel now with your videos, because they become kind of synonymous with, people are looking for those videos after a weekend run or something, especially with Morgan, do you feel the pressure to have to keep notching up one from the next, you know, because when you get that recognition, it's easy to want to it's easy to feel that pressure and want to have to kind of keep making it better and better. Do you feel that way?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's more about beating yourself than anything else. People that I've looked up to in growing up in music too, you know, music's a similar thing when you're an artist. Like think about Morgan. It's like, I wonder what his brain says about stuff like that. Cause yeah, you're trying to beat the last thing you did without just making the same product that you know worked. So like, why not just make the same thing?
Of course.
But you want to give people a new experience. You know, that's what creates, it's all about creating a connection with the viewer, you know, and that's always my goal. So when we started, it was like, I didn't know what the goal was, you know. I don't think Morgan did either with what I was doing specifically. We would do a recap and photos after every single show. I would just stay up super late and finish it and have it sent to Morgan in the morning. I'd still be asleep often when he posted it, you know. And that was just the way we did it. And then we realized it was getting kind of repetitive, you know, and there was only so many different ways we could show a small club or theater with the same set every night, right? And looking back, I bet there was probably ways I could have changed it up that I hadn't thought of. But in the moment, it was more difficult than it is now going into a stadium. You know, they all look similar, but there's so much room to work with. I mean, so many more songs to work with. It's like I could make 4 different recaps off one show, you know, that feel completely different, you know. Now, but back then that just wasn't the case. But it is all still about beating yourself. And what really helped us out was creating the music side of it. So making these remixes for his songs to go under the video seemed to make the biggest difference in, for me personally, fulfillment and for the viewer of just like getting a new experience. Because we were just using these songs that people already love. They're great songs, but how can we create a new experience out of these songs? You know,
it's smart. That's smart. Plus, it gives you a good music bed to create with your visual. Now, do you have at this? Let's backtrack for a second. Do the evolution of the video of what you've created? Have you had to learn new tools, post-related things? Like again, because I can see a lot of the clips are exciting with my terminology may be antiquated, but rotoscoping a football, a basketball. From one scene Morgan might throw, the basketball is rotoscoped, cut out as it transitions to the next piece. Was that something you always liked to do and just didn't have a way to showcase it? Or is that something you had to, in that evolution, learn on your own and figure it out because you're like, that's where I want this to go?
Right. And it's definitely a little bit of both. When I was younger, like I said, I was adopted, and my adopted parents had chosen to homeschool me and my adopted sister. And so homeschooling was interesting because I feel like I didn't really want to do it. So I would get the work done, whatever that looked like, which was half-assed and at best. And then I'd be in my room on my computer, and I really was into music production. I was really into editing photos and video, just for fun. I don't know. I just thought it was cool. I'd make logos with my name on it in After Effects when I was, and I was honestly pirating these programs. Like I couldn't afford it. My parents weren't buying it for me. Like I remember pirating After Effects and learning how to do tracking when I was probably like 15 or 16.
Okay.
But as I've gotten older, it's more learning those concepts, because all of this, like the football that you're referencing, I'm assuming you're referencing one of my videos.
Oh yeah.
I did all that in Final Cut. I didn't even step foot in After Effects. And it's more about, we have so many tools at our disposal nowadays. So a program like Final Cut, you can get a lot of different plugins that can give you a lot of shortcuts to get something that would need to be, if I was making a movie, I'd probably go through and detail rotoscope it. But in the moment, you don't got to do that. I have this AI tracker in Final Cut that just, you select the object, tracks it out, you got your mask done in seconds, and you can finesse a little bit. It's not be perfect, but when you get into the edit, you can make it look perfect with motion blur and all that stuff. So a little bit of both, because I had to just learn quicker ways to do things, I think. Because After Effects, if you take your time, it can be really, really magical, but you really got to take your time with it, So a little bit of both, I guess.
Do you have a preference when you're shooting well, before we get there, when you are in the moments and you're shooting on stage, are you primarily working the video side of things and kind of leaving the photo to a different hand? Or are you still kind of like a little bit of a junkie, you want to get that moment? Or, how are you in your responsibility to the team?
Yeah.
You're probably on the tip of the iceberg for the visual. So are you more favoring one or the other, or how does that work with you?
It's kind of, been a learning curve how to do that with more of a team. You know, we got 3 guys now, and the way that it's kind of ended up, we've tried a few different things, but the way that it's worked out best is having one person on photo, one person on video, and one person doing both. And it made the most sense at the end of the day for me to do both, because I feel like I'm really good at just watching where my guys are at and then trying to just contrast them right?
You get the big play.
Yeah. So if I see Matt's Paskets out there with a 7200, I'll just put my wide lens on, and that way if we're standing next to each other, it's not like we're just getting the same thing, right?
Of course not. Yeah.
Because you got to trust your team. I know he's getting good work, but I want to fill in the gap there instead. And I think when I first brought on new people, I was thinking, oh, they'll fill in the gaps for me. But what I've learned is that it's much better to let your guys do what they're good at, and then you fill in the gap. If I know the situation the best, I know these guys the best, like that's, it might come with time with them, but for now it makes sense to just have me be that filler role. And like you brought up the walkout videos earlier, it's like that was another example. It's like the last few shows I hadn't even been shooting. I shoot the first 2 songs and then go edit that walkout video and come out for the encore and get a little bit of that, and that way we can post it right after. And at first I thought, when we first talked about doing this, I was thinking somebody else would be doing those edits. I want to be on stage. I want to be shooting the show. But it actually makes a lot more sense for me to do those, Yeah. It just kind of depends on everybody's different, I'm sure, but you just got to be adaptable, I think, and just kind of see what makes the most sense based on who you got and all that stuff,
Now, do you have a preconceived idea on your videos? Like, because now the shows, where more or less timings and pyros are going to be and what songs and stuff, so you can kind of preconceive what actions are potentially going to happen. Do you have an idea what you want to see in your recap, your video before you started, or is it something you create in your edit?
You're talking on a per video basis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about more of the Instagram story,
right.
not. We'll get into some bigger projects, but I'm just more.
Sure. The recaps. Yeah. No, I got you.
Is that something that you have an idea going in, like this, or is it? I know I need to get this. I need to get that. You need to get that, and then okay, now I got all my puzzle pieces. How can I inject some sauce?
Uniqueness. Yeah.
Yes. Do you know that sauce going in, or is that sauce after?
I think the puzzle piece aspect, like I don't really get a chance to just be like, all right, we're going to do this shot. Okay. Almost every time I've tried to do that at a show in my own head, like none of that ends up working out, to the point that I've just kind of stopped doing that, because there is some stuff you can plan for, but there's just too many people now, and there's not enough room in the hallways, and like, Morgan's he's doing his own thing, you can't, he's focused on the show. I can't just be like, all right, like let's do a whole thing back here real quick. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. But with the uniqueness, I think you can kind of get in on that. Like if I'm out there shooting Morgan behind the venue and he's throwing a football, it's like, that's where I'm like, oh, I should try to rotoscope this at some point. Okay. So I should try to get a shot that I could do that where I'm following the ball, right?
Or you might not, but you at least have it.
Right. So I think, yes, and that's a really, really good point, because in the moment, you're just shooting. I'm just out there just like, all right, Morgan's doing something, Morgan's on stage, whatever. I'm going to just start filming. I'm not going to sit here and try to direct this. I'm just going to observe. We're concert videographers and tour videographers and photographers. They're, I think, just observers, You're just out there watching and
sometimes
also capturing.
Sometimes I get involved a little bit more when I'm out. I feel like when I'm out, I'm not really doing. I don't believe people. I mean, I can do stage work and all that, but I feel like I'm hired a lot for the lifestyle stuff and all the other things. Seems like, but anyway.
Well, even with that, I mean, same. We'll go out and do stuff, but a lot of the lifestyle stuff, it's like in my experience, there's a chance, to maybe throw out an idea or something like that, but a lot of it is just they're doing something and you're capturing that, right? It's you can be a part of something.
I agree.
For the most part,
most of the time you can't do the shifting. They're doing the shifting,
which has its pros and cons. Like in the moment, sometimes you just want to jump in and do the thing. But that's not why you're there.
You see something in your mind. You're like, all I have to do is just speak up.
100%. There's a time and a place for sure.
Absolutely. Now, okay, do you have a preference of photo, video? In other words, there is going to be things you're going to have to sacrifice.
Oh yeah, no, I think I like both equally. I think the ultimate thing that brings me fulfillment is the music. So, being able to do that really helped me want to keep doing this. Because like 2 or 3 years ago when we started doing these remixes, I was just getting a little burned out because we weren't where we're at now, and I was just doing video and photo, and I have a music production degree. I've done music my whole life. That's why I'm in Nashville, is because of music. So to be working every day on something that has it's great music, but I'm not integrating any of the stuff that I love about creating music into it got defeating. It was sad, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Some days. And so being able to do that is really helped. So choosing between photo and video, to me, I'm passionate about both, but my ultimate passion is music. So either way, with that, I love both equally, really.
Yeah, I found that there's really no answer to that question, because it's kind of like when I'm doing the directing or the motion side of things, there's a burnout on that. There's a point where I'm like, oh God, I'm done.
Yeah.
Whoop, swap over to photo.
Yeah.
And then I can kind of dance back and forth. One thing is one thing I don't know if many people would think about your situation or your position. And I have a closet full and a cabinet full of hard drives. And I have a panic of lost footage. I just double back, the volume at which you guys are shooting. Now you have 3 team members. You must have a system put in place, I would imagine, to preserve or to have organized for these Willy Wonka gold exclusive content of Morgan. Do you have something like that in place?
I just keep it all on iCloud,
What?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just sitting on a backup Lacey.
Oh man, a lot of people do that. I've ran into a couple labels that I've gone in, and I'm like, so what do you guys do with how do you guys manage all your files? And it's like they just open a drawer of like 100 Lacey's, and then we got a few of these drawers. I'm like, those may not work in 10 years, right? Like, it's terrifying.
I get freaked out over that.
Yeah,
to be honest with you. I don't have raids set up or anything set up. I get nervous about certain shoots. I'll just back that shoot up again with a new hard drive.
Yeah, no.
I'm so bad. It's really embarrassing, but I can imagine you've got something much more high tech in place.
Yeah, I was working with Kane Brown's team during like 2020 and 2021, and we had a shoot, and I have all these hard drives, solid states, Lacey's, old random ones from Western Digital, and we did the shoot, and there were some sponsors, some big sponsors, and all I had to do was do a behind the scenes for this music video, but they needed to feature these sponsors in the music video, in the behind the scenes. And so the first day Kane was there, and the second day Kane wasn't there. So the first day Kane was there, we got the album art. My friend Angela, and she got it, she killed it. And then I was filming Kane most of the time, and I got back from that shoot, and I did the second day. Everything was great, and I was going through some hard drives. And have you ever opened up the computer in like the recovery mode to go through disk utility?
Yes.
So it's a lot more like serious when you do it in there. It's like quick. If you click format, it's formatted, right?
Yeah. No extra button to confirm.
Correct. So I was in there with 3 hard drives plugged in, and I knew there was one I needed to format and 2 I didn't, and I clicked the wrong one, right?
Yeah.
And it was a hard format. It wasn't even the soft one. So it was gone. I tried data recovery. I tried normal things that would work. All of the footage of Kane Brown from the first day was gone. I had all the second day footage.
What happened? Real quick. What did you personally did you just like beat your head on a thing, cry under a desk, take 10 minutes before you actually, what was your initial like?
I tried data recovery for sure, as any normal person would do. I paid the $75 or whatever online and got disc drill or whatever it was.
But meanwhile, your stomach is in the pit of your stomach. Right?
Oh yeah, because there was a lot riding on it. I knew for their team, so even if I lost the job, like I knew the weight of it for them. Like that's where they hired me to do it. Like they would have to figure something else out.
It happens.
So I immediately called Alex Alvga, who's and I kind of had in my head my only solution I could think of, and I called him. I was like, "Hey man," I just told him what happened. I was just straight up. I was like, "Listen, this happens. I called you first because I felt like you would understand the most," and he did. But I was like, my only possible solution to this would be if I can get all the photos that the photographer took and make 3D photos out of that day. And so I spent 2 or 3 weeks just painstakingly, and that was all After Effects. Cutting these photos up in Photoshop,
digging yourself out of that hole.
And we made a piece and they delivered it, and the sponsors thought we went above and beyond, and they didn't even know that we deleted the footage.
Good.
But
lesson learned. Absolutely
terrifying. So from that all of that is to answer your question, just to go back.
Wow.
From that moment, I was like, I cannot be doing this with Morgan, because at the time Morgan was kind of taking a break, everything with COVID and everything. So we were kind of getting back into it at the end of 2021, and I'm like, we got to figure something out. We got through 2022. I was like, we got to figure something out. So we're getting to the end of 2022. I hadn't deleted anything from Morgan that I know of, but it was just so much stuff. It was getting more and more. I'm just buying hard drives. I'm like, I don't want to store all these. So I looked into it. I did a bunch of research. I think it was over like Christmas or something. And I ran into network attached storage, which is basically a RAID system that's hooked up to your internet router that can essentially, you can set it up to replace stuff like Dropbox. And I was paying so much money for Dropbox, not getting reimbursed for it. Just, I'm just like, I got all these clients. It's just thousands of dollars a year, and so that seemed really appealing. So I just did a bunch of research on it. It was a big learning curve, but it's transitioned into now I have 2 servers, one at my house, one at a warehouse that we have for Morgan. That's the backup of that server. We've got about 200 terabytes of data available, or space available on those servers. They back up all the time instantly. If one goes down, the other one we can just access just the same. And I've also been able to create a website off of that I can share photos with Morgan on, and it's all hosted from my house. So, and it's all like self-made with code. So I have a whole favoriting system that like Morgan go through, favorite all the pictures. Then once he's done, it's the send to David button. It texts me. It lets me know how many photos you favorited. It puts all of those favorites into a file that's now on my computer and my phone that I can go to the high resolution folder, right click on it, reference that file. It sorts out all the ones he didn't pick. And then I can send those to the merch team company to sell and all that stuff. And it's just really just trying to make it quicker for myself and for Morgan to.
Yeah, you're making me look real bad now.
Well, I mean, it was frustrating. No. And I'm always down to talk about this more if you need any help. But
wow, this is real.
It was all about streamlining because Dropbox is so slow. And you send it. There was no way. I had set up some system where I had a Dropbox account. Morgan had a Dropbox account that he used for demos. So I made a third Dropbox account that we both had access to. So we were signed into 2 Dropbox accounts on our phone. So when he wanted to favorite photos, he would just switch to that other account. It's just so annoying,
know. And I deal with this too.
All the other companies, they make you sign up. They make you put it in an email. I needed something where I could just send Morgan a link. There's favoriting and send to David. He doesn't have to type in his email or sign in or do Face ID or anything like that. So that was really the goal.
And he loves it too.
Oh yeah, I think so. Boom, it's just so much quicker. He doesn't have to like click through a bunch of crap, basically.
Wow, that's a great. I love the story of how you got there too. We do have to learn the hard way. Otherwise, you're going to keep taking it to the edge, and then your edge is going to be losing Neyland Stadium or some shit. You're
right.
Like, whoa, this ain't going to happen.
I've Neyland backed up like 4 different places.
I would be that way too. I'm a backup freak. So did you have a big? Let's talk about shooting stadiums, because I've they're tricky. Yeah, they're very tricky, and especially stadiums where, in the case of Morgan, he's got a ginormous runway to what, the center of the stadium?
Just about. I think it's at like the 40-yard line.
I mean, so did you a lot of people don't necessarily, stadiums are so, that gotta be cool, fun to shoot. What are some of the challenges you have faced with, or a learning curve, stepping into the stadium from an amphitheater?
That's a good question. Obviously the size, I think, is the most like initial, like, wow, like what am I? How am I gonna get everywhere? Mm-hmm. The thing we have, that is nice is it's such a long show. So you can kind of, I think the biggest thing is just like when you first enter into a situation like that. And I remember when I brought Matt and David out 2 separate times, I was just like, dude, just watch. Don't try to get out there for Matt, I think it was rehearsals. And then for David, it was the first run of shows. It was like, dude, just go out there and watch. Like, don't sit there and try to just start shooting stuff immediately. Because that's our inclination as shooters, is just to like, oh, stuff's happening. Let's capture some stuff, But you get with a stage that big and a venue room that big, you got to just kind of sit back and see what's going on, for sure. At least for one show.
And you say the bigness can also be the difficulty, right? Because if you think about it, now you've got, let's put Morgan way out front. Other than pyro, there's a lot of space between him and a background, right? Mm-hmm. So like, do you find yourself kind of compressing things to get it, or I don't know. I mean, it gets dark, or I guess Morgan, they have so much light out in the crowd.
Yeah,
too.
No, there's plenty of light.
You got. I guess there's not much of a stress out there then,
Well, yeah, to a point. I mean, it just depends on the situation, but I think the thing I had to really do is kind of come back to paying attention and just watching, is not trying to run around too much, because following an artist like Morgan, he's so dynamic on stage and moves around a lot. Yeah. It's easy to like be like, oh, he's going over there, I'm going to start moving. He's going over there, I'm going to start moving. If you just kind of stay in one spot,
he'll find you.
He'll be back. And that's kind of, at least on one side in the photo pit. I mean, getting from one side of the photo pit to the other side could be a whole 5-minute thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
you lose
the whole song.
For sure.
Yeah,
you'll lose a song.
Just depends. There's security. They have this big camera now in the front. You got to like step over. It's like, yeah.
Damn.
But I think movements is probably the hardest thing. Like really, and making a decision on where you want to go. Because if you decide you want to go up top, I mean,
there you go. You've lost.
Better know where the elevator is, you know. Like,
Jesus.
And you better hope that there's not a bunch of people that are drunk trying to get through that elevator when you found it earlier and it was clear,
Oh yeah. Or security stopping you.
Mm-hmm. Security is a big one that we had to learn about, but you can rest assured with that, because you're gonna win. You just gotta be like, hey, I understand this is great. Thank you for stopping me and being assertive, but let's just talk to your boss.
Quickly. Did you have a pretty good learning curve with the pyro exposures and such? 1 minute you're exposed for Morgan's skin and the face, or and then you've got this massive pyro illuminating behind you. Did you have any?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience,
issues with that?
It's one or the other.
You
either expose it down like crazy, or you just kind of expose it normally, and then you do something creatively with the edit where it's just whited out or something, or like But I think there's a world where that works, but it has to be on one of the sides of the extreme. Sitting in the middle with pyro, where you're just like kind of everything's averagely exposed. That's where you get the edges of the fire that look like chromatic abrasion or something weird. It doesn't look pleasing. But if it's too exposed, it can just look like a bunch of light. And if it's underexposed, you see every little detail.
I like that, but I also sometimes get bummed when the artists are silhouette, but that's the vibe.
Right.
So I'm like, but hey, that silhouette is cool.
I shoot Sony, so there's been very few situations where if I underexpose for the fire, I can almost always pull him out and it looks just like full brightness. Like,
so what do you shoot? Sony's what?
I mean, I like the A7S III and the A7R5, if that's what you were asking.
I didn't know if it was motion or not. Okay, so I didn't know if you guys were busting the Sony Venices or something on those things, or just keeping it mobile.
I love
and
bigger
keeping
rigs,
them tight.
but I have had so much success with the A7S. I mean, it is just such a versatile camera for low light. And I mean, I don't even know if I would have had a job like if I didn't have the A7S II back in the day. I mean, we were shooting in places that had literally no light, and that thing can see in the dark and it looks nice.
Yeah.
You know, so it's being able to just like run out on a stage back in the day, you know, theaters and clubs, and just kind of like spray and pray and then start pulling up shadows, and you're like, I didn't even see that in the moment, you know, like that's crazy, you know?
Yeah. Do you see yourself doing like music videos or more music docs or long former pieces? I mean, didn't you just do a little a nice piece on the Neyland Stadium?
Yeah, there's
show?
definitely gonna be some stuff coming from that. You know, I think that can go either way with being a little bit bigger or more just show focused, but we're still trying to make some decisions there, like as a team. But yeah, I'd love to get more into that. I think the world where we're living in right now, as you probably are, you know, kind of observed, is just like music videos are not as impactful as they used to be.
Of course.
Depending on the artist. So I kind of like to go with the flow in that, but I've always enjoyed directing and shooting music videos, whatever capacity, but and telling that story for the artist.
Yeah.
But I think there's a way, as I've kind of talked to a couple other artists, like just getting started in their careers, musicians, there's an inclination to just want to jump into music videos, but it's more about how can you tell your story without that first, and then the music videos will make sense later. So I'm pretty interested in artist development and like these shorter form pieces. You know, we'll see where that takes me.
What is artist development? More of like the short form, reels and clips, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, yes, but along with that, like really identifying what about the artist is special and what would work for them, because you can't just go on and do exactly what Morgan did, or go on and do exactly what Zach Bryan did, and everybody does different approaches with this. You know, an artist like Bailey, for example, you know, he's so much more into it than some other artists, but that's part of him, you know. So as I'm meeting new people and talk to newer artists, it's like, how can we find that with you? Because a lot of these people are just trying to do what they've seen everybody else do, but ultimately you got to find your thing, you know. And I love that. I love trying to identify that.
Are you working with other artists developing them?
A little bit, but you know, it's
I would
more
imagine
like
your plate's pretty full.
Yeah, for sure. But I have friends that work with a lot of people, so it's more of just being a resource to them. And
Cool.
like, I think about that stuff. I think about, you know, we're coming into some off time. So like, I'm a pretty hardworking person. Like, I can't just sit there and not work for too long.
God, no.
So yeah, I'm definitely interested. I've been talking to a few people and just more not necessarily trying to make a bunch of money. It's just like, I'm passionate about music. I want to
build something from like what you did with more. Do it again.
I want to see some of these artists get out there, that I believe in their voices and that kind of thing. You know,
absolutely. We touched base on it a few minutes ago about the the now infamous walkout, the Morgan walkout. Yeah. Can you recall how that came about? Like, what was were you in a meeting and it was was it Morgan's idea or, idea to do that? And did you have a favorite walkout of the tour? Because I thought that was really cool. Every city had that iconic either ball player, rapper, Tom Brady. I mean, I have my favorite. Tom Brady and Tyson was freaking cool. Stupid. Super cool. I saw that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Well,
or do you know how it came about?
Yeah, I think like it was kind of a bunch of ideas that ended up landing on where he started bringing in guests. I don't really know the exact moment. I remember, like you brought up Justin earlier, I remember we talked about it then and we did something like that then. I don't know if there was any guests in that one though. I think it was just
just him and the band and security and stuff.
Yeah. I don't even remember the band. Maybe they were, but
oh no, they weren't. Yeah. That's right.
But then we didn't do those for a while. But then we talked about doing like a video idea where I'd filmed something of him like walking out of a venue and we just play it on the screen every night, the same clip. But then that just kind of seemed not as cool as like being live, you know? Okay. So then they worked with the IMAG team and I think Morgan wanted to do it and he just started doing these walkouts and then they started bringing guests in. And then it wasn't until like 2-3 months ago that, our management, Colby and Sticks management and Austin Neal, like they were just like, we should do these like on Instagram right after the show. So now I've just been, like I said earlier, I've just been editing a lot during these last few shows, just trying to figure out a song real quick, trying to cut it together in a way that's unique. But my favorite for sure was the last one we did, and it was with the band because those are my best friends in the whole world. And so I know for them that was super cool because they've been watching these all year, and it was our final show. And
that's a great answer.
Those are my brothers, so it was just cool to see that and be able to edit them into the video. It's cool.
That is cool because I actually remembered seeing that clip and having a very genuine smile.
Oh yeah, those are his boys.
Cigars,
dude. And the cigar was such a last second decision. Like we were standing back there, dude, and it was like we had to be on stage in like a minute. And
perfect.
No cigars had been brought up yet, and Morgan was just like, we need cigars. We need cigars. And like Chad just runs out. Chad just runs out to his office, comes back with like 6 cigars. Like, this is all we got, man.
Oh, shit.
And then they just started. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's a perfect response. One thing, not all, well, we do have some dangers in our job, right? A friend of mine had hit me up and said, yo, did you see David took a nasty spill on a show? I was like, no, I didn't, and I was on a shoot. And I remember hours later finally being home and then seeing the clip. And I was like, good God, and it reminded me of, I've fallen off stages. I've been videoed on it. And yeah, it's smirkable, after. But your fall particularly was could have been a lot worse, and I was concerned for you because I've had a dead weight fall, but not from that kind of a stage, And it says a lot about you that you're in the zone. Look, it happens. It's dark, and more fans, it's loud, all that shit. Can you explain that moment?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it was super bright in there at the time, but I'll explain why. But we had just gotten, it was our first show of the year, my hometown, Indianapolis, Indiana, first show of the year, this year. And we had just upgraded the thrust, the catwalk or whatever you want to call it, going out. So before, it was just the big MW up against the stage. So we'd go out on stage and there was just a little step down, MW, all attached to the stage. Mm-hmm. But now they've added a huge runway, like big, like a normal runway to the MW. And the same MW, it's just way farther out. So, and that runway, when it hits the MW on the sides, has these stairs that go down right onto the floor. And the LED wall there's an LED wall on the floor. Mm-hmm. And that goes straight back and it drops off. There's no like lip or anything like that. So I'm sure you do the same thing when you're walking backwards. You're kind of shuffling.
Yeah.
You're feeling with your feet, and if you feel any sort of little thing that you stop. Yeah. And there was just nothing there. So and it was right at the end of the show. Morgan was signing stuff, and he had just handed me his microphone because sometimes he does that just because he wants to sign. Yeah. And so I was like putting in my back pocket, focusing on filming and walking backwards, and then straight down. And I just remember hitting my head, but then I got up. I like tried to stand up as quickly as possible, and it was terrifying me because a few years earlier I flipped a 4-wheeler and broke my back. And when that happened, I hit the ground and I stood up and I didn't really feel anything bad. And I thought I was fine. And then I took a step forward and it was like someone had stabbed me in the back and it was awful. I'd broken my back. But at first I stood up and I didn't think it was that bad, right? So that same thing went through my mind. I fall off the stage. Morgan sees it. He comes down. Yeah, he's looking at me like I have blood all over my face or something. Like he's just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm standing there frozen because I'm like, I don't want to move. Yeah. I'm like, am I missing an arm? Like what happened? I was stunned because I'd hit my head so hard. Thank God, grace of God, I only had a concussion and I'd never had one before. And that lasted about a week and a half. It was weird. Have you ever had a concussion?
No.
Yeah.
Not that I can be aware of.
It was weird because I didn't know I had it until the next day. Yeah. But it was like, I just was like, oh, I'm good. Like, I'm good. But then all of a sudden, I can't remember anything. And like, I'd be like pukey, but like not.
The computer screen was off limits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I just remember laying that second show. I was so bummed because I just laid in my bunk the whole show and I could just hear all the booms and everything. I was like, oh, man, it was the second show. My hometown, all my family, like a bunch of family and friends were there. It's like, but, like I said, it could have been way worse.
Head on?
I think the stairs is my guess. Yeah.
Down. That's what I thought because it was a boom. I couldn't see. But I
think it
remember
was probably
hollering
on
at
the
you
side.
going, bro, are you, I mean, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, a lot of people hit me up about that. It like people started posting on TikTok.
it's
And
very,
it's
very
a
worried.
funny thing
Wow.
to see.
Oof.
But thank Jesus.
We're good.
Yeah.
Has there been a particular pinch me moment in your career thus far that you were like, this is it. This is cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a lot. You know, I can't lie. Like, I'm blessed to work with Morgan, and he believes in me and trusts me and brings me along on some really cool experiences. The first thing that comes to mind, and I mean, I know you had mentioned maybe bringing up like a favorite clip or something at some point. So I don't know if it might be the same thing, but
Sure.
we went out. It was before COVID. It was whenever Heartless came out. We did a show. We were on the FGL tour, amphitheaters, and we did that show. And then we were supposed to get in a helicopter and go to Atlantic City because Heartless was coming out that night, and Diplo was out there in Atlantic City DJing, and they wanted to do the music video out there. So we were supposed to get in a helicopter, but weather was bad, so we got in a jet and we flew. So we got off stage. I was filming all of this. We get off stage, get in an SUV. They're in the car talking about Heartless, talking about, it was with Tracker and Morgan, and they're just talking about the numbers. Like, wow, this is going to be crazy, And so we flew out there, did the music video with Diplo, and then after that, we went up to his show that he was having in a club just on the rooftop at one of these places in Atlantic City. And it was the first time I'd ever seen, like, during that show, like, it was so hot in there. So many people dancing. And one of the EDM drops that he did, like, all of a sudden this dry ice or something just came out of the walls. Just, you couldn't see anything for like 4 seconds. It was just dry ice smoke. And it was like felt so good. It was so hot in there. So all of a sudden this cold, dry ice just overtakes you. You can't see anything. It's trippy. But then you just get out and you're like, that was awesome. It was like right with the music and everything. So that definitely goes along with, like, that's one of my favorite things I've shot for Morgan, because it was like more of a longer piece. It was probably like 5 or 10 minutes. And we really got to go through that whole experience of like him leaving the show, going to the music video set, and then going to the show at Atlantic City with Diplo. And that, again, pinched me. Like, that was crazy. Like, I was still pretty new with Morgan. It had probably been like a year and a half. And it was just like, I can't even believe we just did all that in 12 hours, or less. We did a huge show with Florida Georgia Line, and now I'm falling asleep in Atlantic City after I just did like a whole music video with Morgan I was filming BTS, but we did this music video. We go to this show, and it's crazy. It's like it was wild. That was definitely wild.
That's amazing. I bet it's been a trip watching your relationship start from, hey, what's up, man? Nice to meet you. To now having been through, being in the room all the time with them. What's it? Have you been able to see your friendship and your relationship grow?
Oh yeah. I mean, just naturally, it's like we got a lot of different interests, but a lot of similarities too. So it's just good to, be able to just hang out and chill.
Now,
be working.
Do you get? How does it work if, like, he's going to the studio with Post Malone or something? Do you get the phone call? Do you get the bat text? Hey,
yeah, he usually just texts me and be like, "Yo, we're gonna do this thing. Are you free tonight?" And I'll be like, "Yeah,
I'm here for you, baby.
I just happen to be free."
So now you've built a team, and is the team growing? I mean, do you feel like you've now got all your was building a team also important to you because you've moved in stadiums? And there is so much you can cover.
There's only, for sure.
The more you have, the more you can get, and all that. Is that growth a natural growth that happened with the stadiums?
100%.
Business?
100%, for sure. I think at first I thought I could just get away with having one extra person, but now with like the extra editing and like really trying to figure out a workflow during the show that can get content out online faster, is why a third person is really helpful. So we can always have two people shooting when somebody's behind the scenes trying to get some content that can be presented to Morgan or the team to get out sooner,
How long does it take you roughly to cut a video, a clip? yours.
You're talking like a recap?
Yeah.
The recaps usually take a little bit longer, but they used to be faster. Like the walkout videos, obviously I'll do that during the show, so it's editing an hour most, on that. But the recaps, a lot of it starts with the music. So I'm just sitting there making, like the one that we're working on right now. I've just been remixing Love Somebody and just trying to land on a vibe that's cool, because it's like I'm sitting here in my bed just working on literally the biggest song in the world right now to remix it. It's like, I mean, it's got to be cool, right? Like I'm trying,
I get to see you in your jammies.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is going to be like everybody, but that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I get nervous when I do a post or like that video, what is it, making it behind the photo. You're like, oh God, Sam.
Yeah. And that's kind of a pinch me moment, but also you got to not think about it. Cause like if you put too much pressure on, like I said, like when I had that realization of like, this is literally the biggest song right now. I'm just going through the stems, remixing it. Like,
so you're doing the remixing?
Yeah. That's why I was saying earlier.
Yeah,
that's why it's become a lot more fulfilling because like being able to integrate that and seeing how Morgan appreciates that has been super, super fulfilling.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you're getting all the music and wow.
It definitely changes it up for me.
That's great because you're kind of like that's with me. You're wearing the different hat that gets you out of that thing, and it taps into your love for creating music, right?
100%. And I still love photo video, but like I said, music's been, if there's a trinity, music's at the top.
Has making these remixes reinvigorated that love you have for music?
For sure,
are you seeing yourself making some music on the side? Like,
totally.
Are you doing it more often now that he woke that up and maybe in some of these remixes?
And I don't know about, everybody, but the things about music that get me excited, obviously there's like some personal stuff. Like I like making music for myself for sure. And just creating sounds that I like. But at the end of the day, as someone that makes music or photos, video too, it's all about the connection and the reaction and being able to create an emotional connection with somebody else experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
And that's been the beautiful thing with Morgan is I get a lot of that fulfillment because I don't even need to have my name attached to the songs, but the fact that I got to lay in my bed and make these or lay on the bus and make these, and then I get on, like I remember the first time we did one, it was for Your Bartender, I think. It was like I took the second verse of Your Bartender and changed it up, and like Morgan texted me the next morning and he was like, dude, like 50,000 people have reshared and reused that sound just overnight. And it's like, to me, that I didn't need my name on it. I don't need to get praised for that. Seeing that 50,000 people in one night took my song and had such a reaction emotionally to it that they made their own content to it. That's why I'd make music. Like, it's not about money. It's not about obviously you need to make money to survive and stuff, but ultimately it's that connection and seeing people get that reaction. That's the beautiful thing to me.
And the fulfillment you get. Money can't buy that.
No.
One of the last things I want to say, chat, before we go, would be like, you've been on my set or the sets while I'm photographing Morgan for the covers. And what the most recent one, the last one for One Thing at a Time, were you ever pleasantly surprised whenever, because you're there, you're doing your job too, but then when you finally see the photos and they're done, what were your thoughts on them? What's your experience
awesome.
on like?
I'll just be completely transparent with you. Like if I was kind of new when I first met Morgan to like being a shooter, being a director, being a videographer or a photographer. And I also hadn't ever like tried to pursue that either. Yeah. Like my goal in life was never like, I want to be a photographer one day. I want to be a videographer one day. It just kind of happened like we talked.
Yeah.
So when I would get presented, I didn't know you yet.
Yeah.
Or like like John Shearer as well. Like I didn't know him yet. And when that first would get brought up to me, my first thought was like, well, why can't I do it? And that has been such a big thing like that I've learned is that there's such a huge advantage to trusting other people. It's like I have obviously like I could probably come in and do an album cover shoot, but the fact that you do a lot of that on your just in more than me. So there's a big experience difference there that I should trust. And also like being able to collaborate with you, we wouldn't have to be friends, you know? So it's like, and ultimately all I care about, and this is what I had to come to terms with, ultimately all I care about is that Morgan has products that he likes, right? And that's it's literally all I care about, because I don't have this huge attachment to my photos that I'm like, oh, I need everybody to see my work. It's more just like, does the person that is literally just bringing all of my well-being into my life right now stoked about what we're doing, right? No matter what that is, whether I hire somebody else or they hire somebody like you to come in and do something, like, and I love it. Long story short, like, it's just so cool to be able to learn from other people and just see different approaches. And you and I are just sitting, hanging out.
Yeah,
that
was fun.
Just
I
talking,
love it.
You know? I love it. I think it's awesome. But at first, being newer, it was definitely like, well, why not me? You know, like,
and I think that's an honest response. And I've heard that from even younger directors when they come on set saying, oh, I can do this. I can do this.
But it's just inadvertently, it's impossible for it to be the same if you have somebody else do it. And I think that's why, you know, it's like I have so many things put out with Morgan. You know, it's like, I don't need another thing with my name on it with Morgan. You know, like, ultimately, like, I just want it to be awesome, you know? So, like, it's cool. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
That was a awesome answer. And I appreciate you taking the time out, man. I've enjoyed this conversation with you.
Dude, me too.
And it's fun is because I was looking forward to it, because I feel like I know you pretty well, you know, but I wanted to ask things and get to the core of, you know, you. And I feel like we did. And I'm thankful you did this, man. Thank you so much.
Dude, thank you for having me.
That was awesome.
That was a great handshake too.
Fumbled.